And a good Wednesday morning to you. Lanny Ford along with you here on the bottom line. Flying solo, as you can see. I do that sometimes. Well, I feel like I got something to say anyway. Hope you're off to a great Hump Day Wednesday. Juju will join us in just a little bit as we were pre-recorded a little bit. He's in school, so we pre-recorded a little bit this morning. And a couple of topics. I got a couple of things I want to maybe bring up that kind of need our attention. The first one I heard yesterday, and I had already heard this. There was already some talk that the two spring leagues, which is the USFL and the XFL, are looking to merge. Now, the reason they're looking to merge is because each one of those, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of owned or partnered with a specific network. So if, and I don't know which one goes with which, but if XFL is playing on ABC, for example, then they won't talk about anything in the USFL, and vice versa, because it might be on NBC. So my point being, they need to merge. When the USFL first came into being the first time, years ago, they wanted to compete with the NFL and hopefully get absorbed by the NFL to expand the teams. These two leagues were set up not to compete with the NFL, but to help maybe boost some talent into the NFL by giving you spring football. I love spring football. Now, a couple of things that have come up that I think we need to kind of take a look at just a little bit is when you look at, like, I look at these two spring leagues as feeder leagues, okay, feeder leagues to the NFL. And I don't see them as competing. Morning, Richie. And I don't see them competing. So it's a feeder league, and they need to look at it like that. I would love to see each NFL team have a quote-unquote minor league team that's a part of them that kind of helps bolster their practice squads. Michael Danner, good morning. We need more players. Look at the NFL now. We're only 3 weeks in. And the biggest thing that's going on is we're losing players left and right for the season. Shaq Thompson's out with a broken fibula. Looks like Nick Chubb's going to be out. Aaron Rodgers is going to be out. And the season just started. And so they need to kind of expand the rosters, I guess, a little bit and have some of these guys on the ready. I would rather see guys that's maybe a little less experienced get in and play than completely just decimating all of the rosters, and you don't have a whole lot left. Richie said they are now meant to be like the minor leagues. That's exactly right, Richie. That's the way it, and I think the NFL is accepting that. I think the NFL already, you're seeing changes, subtle changes made with officiating or how the games flow to see what kind of effect it has. Does it have an effect on the game? Does it make the game better? I think that's a great way to do it. A great way to do it. So the other thing that I guess one of the little stumbling blocks that they've got to go through is they're going to have to get federal approval, FTC, to make sure they're not considered a monopoly by merging into one, much like Sirius and XM did. There were two of them, but then they merged into one. I don't think that's the case. I think this should work out. Now, one of the other questions that came up was, do you want these teams in cities where there's existing NFL franchises? I think that would be great. It doesn't compete. It's in the spring. When you think about baseball and minor league baseball, those teams are usually in cities that don't have baseball. But you got to look at it this way. That league, minor league baseball, is going on at the same time that Major League Baseball is going on. You can call those guys up. Don't think the NFL wants to get into that. I look at it as the spring leagues as a more way to develop. And the NFL tried this once before when they had NFL Europe. I used to watch some of that. So I think this is a good thing that they're doing. Richie said they're also experimenting with rules that can make their way into the NFL just like Major League Baseball does with minor leagues. And I agree. There are some things that I like that I see in the USFL and the XFL that I like a whole lot better from a rules standpoint in the way that they handle things. So I think this will be a good thing. So if they can clear the FTC thing, and I believe I don't think every team can be brought in. I think that'll be too much. Maybe scale that back just a little bit. But going back, let's say you've got teams in Houston, you got teams in Chicago, trying to think of some of the other cities that currently have an NFL franchise. I don't think that matters. One of the things I think that would make it more sustainable if they were in cities that had big-time football from a resources standpoint, from a facility standpoint. I think it would make it much better. I enjoy watching the spring football. I do. I watch it, and so I'd like to see this happen. I keep you posted on what's going on, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really, really good thing that it's going on. So we'll see where it goes as time goes on. As I said, Shaq Thompson is out with a broken fibula. He is done for the season, and that's Saquon Barkley has also got an injury, and you're starting to see. There's a running back for the Saints. Last name's Williams. He is probably done, or at least for an extended period of time. So you're seeing a lot of these, and I'm not so sure that we wouldn't be better off to bring younger kids in and try to get them some experience, especially with this spring league, as the veterans that try to stay out there and can't because of what's happened to their body. The body just starts to break down. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I didn't see anything startling in the NFL. Didn't see anything really startling in college football. This was something that came out yesterday afternoon. Dartmouth football coach Eugene F. Buddy Tevens, who introduced innovative methods to make the sport safer, passed away on Tuesday as a result of complications from an injuries that he sustained in a March bicycle crash. He was 66. He's Dartmouth's all-time winningest coach, 2 stints as head coach at his alma mater. He went 117, 101, and 2 with 5 Ivy League championships. In March, he was struck by a truck while riding his bicycle in Florida. He sustained spinal cord injuries, and his right leg had to be amputated. So an assistant, Sammy McCorkle, served as interim coach during the 23 season, which is going on now. Tevens moved to Boston over the summer to continue his rehabilitation from the accident, but it proves that the injuries were too much, and he could not withstand those. So thoughts and prayers out to that family. Another story, and I don't understand things like this. Maybe you can. Deion Sanders condemns death threats against CSU's Henry Blackburn. So there have been recent death threats against Henry Blackburn in the wake of the Colorado State defensive back's illegal hit Saturday on Buffalo star Travis Hunter. Deion said, "Have you lost your mind? It's still a game." Okay? Deion said Henry Blackman's a good player who played a phenomenal game. He made a tremendous hit on Travis on the sideline. You could call it dirty if you could call it, but he was just playing the game of football. There's where we keep missing the point. Whatever it was, it does not constitute that he should be receiving death threats. This is still a young man trying to make it in life, a guy that's trying to live his dream, hopefully graduate with honors or degree, committed to excellence, and go on to the NFL. He does not deserve to get a death threat over something like this. He got whistled for a personal foul. That's the way that it works. I don't think, and I don't know the young man, but I don't think Henry Blackburn had any intention of doing a season-ending or a career-ending injury to another player. I just don't think that's the way that it is. I don't think these kids work that way. You may have some, but I just don't think so. I don't think so. Speaking of Colorado and the Colorado State game, that game drew 9.3 million viewers on ESPN, and that game did not start until 10 p.m., way past my bedtime on the East Coast. That would have been 7 o'clock on the West Coast. But that victory did not end until 2:30 a.m. on the East Coast. Says ESPN's 5th most watched regular season game ever on the network for any time slot. Any time slot. That broadcast window for ESPN college football averaged about 1.7 million viewers last year. That's about a sixfold, I guess. About a sixfold. Now, the true test comes up. It's number 19 Oregon will take on number 19 Colorado. Take on number 10 Oregon this week. I got on here and did a thing yesterday, and I want to make you aware of it again. Mark said there shouldn't be death threats, but it was a stupid hit. I agree, but they're still kids. Not excusing it, but they're still kids. Richie said it was a nasty hit on Hunter. I mean, it's okay to be mad and upset, but sending out death threats is just completely absurd and stupid. Let me remind you about this. I got on, did a little blurb yesterday. I try to remind you every day. But at the Lincoln Times-News, which some of you know, I'm publisher editor. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. But we've done a lot of really nice things with the Lincoln Times-News. We're now a 2-section newspaper with 12 pages. And hopefully you can pick one up. They come out tomorrow. They come out on Mondays and Thursdays. We got about 40 boxes. You can do a subscription if you'd like. We have an e-edition at LincolnTimesNews.com right now. We've got the website open, and it's not a fee-based, but that will change soon. As we're like everybody else. It'll be nominal, but we've got to be able to pay our bills as well and provide the coverage. We give you a lot of coverage with with high school sports, especially during football season. Lots of pictures and stories and statistics. So pick up one. When you pick up one or go to the website, we have a football pick'em contest that's going on. We announce the matchups in the Thursday and Monday paper. So tomorrow and Monday, we will be announcing, and I have to look at my dates, we will be announcing what the matchups are for the 28th through the 2nd. That's the following Thursday through the following Monday. Because here's what we do. We do 5 high school matchups. We do 5 college matchups. We do 5 NFL matchups. And you pick the winner. Just picking the winner is all you're doing. And if there's you have to give a tiebreaker score of what the total points will be. We pay $100 a week. There's a $100 winner every week. Okay? Everybody got that? $100 goes to the winner. And so our first week winner was Danny Fats Harbinson. Last week's winner was Greg Bradley, if I'm not mistaken, and we're starting to get the entries for this weekend. All the entries have to be in by 1 o'clock. That's when our office closes on Thursdays. The easiest ways to email them in is simple. It's email in your picks to contest@LincolnTimesNews.com. Now, if you'd like, you can get a picture. You can get a paper, and we've got a big ad in there for it. You can circle it, scan it, email it. You can drop it off at the office at 2426 East Main Street in Lincoln. You can mail it to 2426 East Main Street in Lincoln or P.O. Box 40. Either one of those will work. But get those in. And we'd love to have you participating in it. This is something we started brand new this year, but it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So 5 high school matchups, 5 college matchups, 5 NFL matchups. That will be out in tomorrow's paper. Let me back up. Got a couple of comments before I take a break. Richie said now Colorado and USC is already set for 12 o'clock Eastern time. That means they're kicking off at 9 a.m. That's just wrong, Richie. That needs to be a 3:30 game, so they're kicking off at noon. That's not fair to those kids to be doing that. Roland Scott, good morning to you, sir. Lindsay said, but does Deion have any responsibility in stirring things up and then chastising it when it goes too far? I don't think so. In the clips that I've seen, he mainly talks about his kids. He waits for the opponent to say something stupid, and then he gets it stirred up inside of his locker room. But I've never seen him make any type of really any comments about opponents. Now, I could be wrong, okay? Mark Alton said on a happy note, Bama ain't got no quarterback. Even if they did, they don't have an offensive line. Alabama's struggling a little bit about that. We'll talk to Juju about that in a few minutes. Morning, honey. She says Deion's going to be on Good Morning America at 8:30 this morning. So if you're watching, if you can get a TV, you can see Deion. Deion was also, I watched part of it. I forgot it was on. I need to go back and rewatch it. He was on 60 Minutes this past Sunday. Mark said Danny Harbison is too rich to win a contest. Well, we don't cull anybody out, Mark, so we have to let him play. Richie said, Deion can talk, but he didn't start this one. Norvell started this one with coming out and talking about Deion and his sunglasses and his hat. I'm going to be honest with you. Was never really a Deion fan. I wasn't a Deion hater, but I wasn't really a fan. He was a great player. But what I like about what he's doing is the way that he's doing it. He's come in. It's not the hype and glitter that you associated with Deion. It's about his kids. It's about building a program. Now, does he stay long-term at Colorado? I don't know. Does somebody else scarf him up and get him somewhere else? I don't know. Deion will tell you it's not about what he does. It's about doing it for the kids and the program. That's what he's about. And he's quickly pointed out, now not that he's not getting a salary, but he quickly points out, I'm not in it for the money because I don't need the money. I think Deion did well, played 2 sports, and did well with his money, and he's probably in good shape. So I like what he's doing. I like what he's doing. Richie said this one hyping Deion, and what he's doing is the media. Yeah, the media's got to have something, and I'm part of the media, but the media's got to have something to kind of chew on and throw out there in front of people. So you just go ahead and you can figure that out for yourself. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, Juju will join us here, and I got a couple good topics, and we'll have more here on the bottom line.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Stifel Nicholas now has an office in your community. Stifel Nicholas is a full-service organization offering a wide range of investment vehicles and services. These include money market funds, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, retirement plans, and managed accounts, to name a few. Our financial advisors will sit down with you and help you tailor an investment plan, explaining strategies and investments which may help you achieve your personal goals. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And we're back here on the bottom line. Lanny Ford along with you. Check in with our good friend Juju Phillips as we do each and every week. Good morning to you, sir.
Hey, Lanny, good morning, and I hope you're doing well on this, looks like to be another early fall day.
Yeah, I'll take it, too. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take getting up in the mornings, and it's down in the 50s, and I never see a 7 or higher in the afternoon temperatures. I love that kind of weather.
Absolutely.
The Bears are doing pretty well. Surprised? Meeting expectations? What's your thoughts?
Meeting expectations, not surprised, because one, I'm still up in the air on their opponents, who they're playing, how good their opponents are. A couple of weeks ago, they played a team down at Fayetteville State that was a playoff team a year ago. We'll see how good they are this year. But their other two opponents really not good. Teams that just, the Bears jumped out to early leads. Last week they led 49-0 at halftime. Weren't very competitive. We're talking about Erskine College, a team that's only been around for 2 or 3 years. The Bears dominated. They led from the outset, ran up a bunch of players. They were able to probably suit up and play over 80 players. So 3-0, ranked 15th in the nation. They got a really good defense, Lanny. Again, it's not been tested yet, but they got the number 2 ranked defense in all of Division II college football. And so that's what they're hanging their hat on. And, we talked last week, or at least I did, about the offense not coming around. The offense rolled up 500 yards last week in that win, but I'm not so sure how good the Erskine defense was. Mm-hmm. But the internet quarterbacks, on the message boards are calling that LR should change quarterbacks because their starting quarterback, Sean White, has not been overwhelming. He's been okay, been effective, but hadn't been great. Well, apparently maybe, I don't know if Mike Jacobs is, tinkering a little bit with his offense, but one of the backup quarterbacks has been getting all the snaps in practice this week. So I don't know if they're going to make the change at quarterback or not, but they get ready to go to Carson Newman this week, and that should be a little bit tougher competition for LR. And if they want to get to where they want to get to, that's to win a conference championship, make a deep run in the playoffs, second, third round of the Division II playoffs. They're going to have to get more offense. They're going to have to score more points. They're going to have to get better play at quarterback, and maybe that starts this week.
When you say more play or better play at quarterback, what facet of his game is not quite there that needs to be there?
More than likely just taking deep shots down the field, inaccuracy, throwing the ball out of different sets and having open receivers and just not – you're not making mistakes as much, but just not being able to make the big play. Now, their offensive line is, again, a work in progress. They ran up some big yardage last week. I just maybe the current quarterback doesn't give them as much of a running threat as maybe fans and that they would like. He ran a little bit last week. His name is Sean White. Some design runs out of the quarterback. He's just not flashy. He doesn't have world-class speed. He doesn't have a great arm. He just does everything just okay. He's good at everything, but not great at anything. So maybe they're looking at making a change, maybe making a spark. The offense seems just to struggle. They do a lot of 3-and-outs against what I would consider less than stellar defenses. So, if they get better play, maybe making some big plays, their offense getting the quarterback to get some design runs, maybe all of that combined. It's not one thing, Lanny, maybe just a combination of things. Well, maybe the other guy's just more talented. Maybe that's what fans want.
I guess my question would be, when you look at that, there's a couple of different variables that come into play on this. One of them, because I used to always do it to Dan Henning when he was the coordinator for John Fox. I hated his play calling, and then somebody reminded me, well, all those plays go through John Fox's headphones. So sometimes I wonder where it's coming from. Is it really because the quarterback can't? Is it because the coaching staff maybe isn't comfortable with turning him loose? Hearing the same thing, we'll get into it in just a bit, Pittsburgh Steelers, the same thing. Can he do it, and you're holding him back because it's your philosophy? So you think the offense would open up a little bit better if they had a different quarterback or they had more confidence or had more ability. Is that your thoughts?
I think probably could open up a little bit more in terms of, spreading the field. Maybe the quarterback have some design runs more. I think the way they want to play is to keep it basic and run the football and play really great defense. And last week was a great example. Their defense scored a touchdown. Special teams scored 2 touchdowns. And the offense I think the defense has forced 9 turnovers in the last 2 games, and that sets up the offense in really good field position, and they take an advantage for most of the time. So, maybe be careful what you wish for, because the team that went 8-3 last year and is on its way to maybe having another good year of, if not 9-2, 10-1 season. I mean, what do you got to complain about if you make the playoffs? You got to make the playoffs or win a conference championship and maybe make a little bit of noise in the postseason. But I don't know if it's a bit of some fans being spoiled. I don't necessarily think it's play calling. I think they're trying to be as conservative as you can. Again, against subpar competition, why show your hand?
Well, and sometimes that's what I'm saying, I guess, is you don't always know where, lack of a better word, where the disconnect's coming from. Are you deliberately doing this because you're not ready to show it, or are you deliberately doing this because you don't have the right personnel to be able to feel comfortable with going to that next level with some, I guess, stretching the playbook? I
think it's probably the former, Lanny. I think they're deliberately doing it so they don't want to show their hand.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they have guys that can stretch the field. They have some really good receivers. They have depth. They have probably more depth than any team in their conference. They have 3 or 4 running backs that they go in and out. Again, good receivers, good skill people. Maybe they're just not making enough plays offensively yet. And again, the offensive line's starting to come around a little bit, but nothing great. And maybe they're a team that you don't want to be peaking in, mid-September or late September. You want to be peaking offensively come late October, early November. Maybe that's what they're shooting for. We'll see.
Let me switch gears just a little bit with you. Any surprises you're seeing in college football in general? Of course, there's Deion mania, but the truth, I guess, will come out exactly where they stand this week when they take on Oregon. But the one thing that I guess I can say that I'm excited about is I think Deion's doing it old school-wise. He's putting it on the back of his players. He may have glitz and glamour, but you don't really see that from him when he's in his coaching role. And I think he's got some kids believing they can do just about anything out there. I hope it doesn't derail. But for right now, Colorado's won 3 times the amount of games they won all season last year.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful story. I don't know if you can get it turned around like Colorado has done and keep it going for the entire season. And I've watched a lot of that game last week, the first half against Colorado State, because there was a guy that used to play LR that is a strength and conditioning coach now at Colorado State. So there was a little bit of I just had an interest in watching the way they played. But Colorado has, I would say, 3 or 4, maybe 5 really good players. I don't think they got the depth. Mm-hmm. I don't think they got the guys up front offensively or defensively. And if one of those guys got hurt last week, so I don't know if – and their defense is not very good. Teams run up and down the field on them. So when they play a team that is more equipped, deeper, and has more talent, or as much or more talent as Colorado does, then maybe they're going to have some issues. But the winning that's happening with Colorado, certainly, and all the publicity they're getting, they're going to get more and more kids interested in that program, either, through the transfer portal or high school kids wanting to come there. So it's nothing but good if they can continue to keep it going, because they got a first-round drafted quarterback in the Sanders kid, Deion's son. He's an NFL prospect for sure, and a couple of other guys are as well. So maybe they can keep this run going. But again, they got back-to-back tough games in the Pac-12. So we'll see what happens.
One of the other things is the Alabama train starting to unwind a little bit. They don't seem to have what they need there. Questions at quarterback a little bit. Everybody can go through some down years, but could it be that everybody else is kind of caught up to Alabama when they caught them looking behind?
Possibly. I don't think they have the guy quarterback. Again, so much of college football now, at least with the top teams, is about who you have a quarterback. And while Alabama, I'm sure, will get it fixed and turned around a little bit, they got so much talent on the other positions. But right now they're struggling at quarterback, and that's going to prevent them from, doing what they want to do. If you look at the match that you mentioned about surprises this year, I think that we'll find out more about college football this weekend. It's a defining weekend. Clemson, Florida State, Ohio State plays Notre Dame. There are a bunch of Pac-12 games that Oregon and Oregon State and those teams all play against each other the next few weeks. And maybe in the ACC, we're starting to see some things unravel a little bit. We'll see what happens because I think there's not been a whole lot. There have been some surprises. Colorado obviously has been the one. But I don't know if we actually know until we get into the meat of the conference playing schedule, which starts this week, and some top 10 matchups, which also start this week, that we're really going to know about what 2023 has in store in college football.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. If you got a moment, I'm going to switch over to NFL. Mike Tomlin's seat is starting to get a little bit warm from what I'm reading, and it's coming from fans. That's something that very rarely happens when you talk about Pittsburgh. You know I'm a Pittsburgh fan, always have been, always will be, but I'm a little disappointed because they can't seem to get off of the spot where they're at. To me, a franchise like Pittsburgh, I'm not interested that they've never lost a game in 16 years that he's been there. I'm more interested in why are we not making runs deeper into the playoffs, and it's starting to come that maybe he's not allowing the offense to evolve like it should. If you look at the teams that are not doing as well in the NFL for right now, they all predominantly have defensive-minded head coaches, and that's what we've had at Pittsburgh. Could it be that Tomlin is getting some pressure and there could be a coaching change in the future, not from letting him go, but maybe behind the scenes that it's time for him to move on?
I'd be shocked and stunned. Steelers don't do that for whatever reason. They don't make coaching changes in the middle of the season.
No. I'm saying after the season. After the season.
Doubtful. I think they'll ask. In the past, the Rooney family has asked the head coaches to make some changes to the staff, and it's only happened one other time. They asked Chuck Noll to do it in his final few years, and he said, "No, I'm loyal to my coaches." And they said, "Well, okay." Then Chuck Noll retired. So I would guess that if any changes are going to happen, it's going to be to their offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Which is struggling. I don't know if he's an offensive coordinator at the NFL level because they're struggling. They're very predictable. I don't know its scheme. I don't know if it's talent. They got a quarterback, second year, and we all know that when you look at NFL quarterbacks, the improvement's not linear. You go up, you go down, you improve, you go back a little bit, you take a couple of steps back. The Steelers are 1-1. They're undefeated in their conference. There are some teams that are 0-2 in their conference, including Cincinnati. So it's so early. I think it's a war of nutrition, and whoever can survive. The Steelers are banged up a little bit, but so are a bunch of other teams. But what the fans are upset about, Landy, is the lack of imagination and predictability in the way their offense is being run. I don't know if they're playing their best players. The quarterback seems to have Kenny Pickett to have taken a step back in his second season. They had a great preseason, but again, that's the preseason. You're playing against second and third team guys, and then when the bullets start flying in the regular season, they have just really struggled. They won a game the other night on Monday Night Football. They scored 26 points and did not they barely crossed midfield at all. They did not get inside the 30-yard line at all during the game, and yet they end up winning that game by scoring 26 points. So their offense has a whole lot of room to improve. We'll see if it happens on a short week. But if it continues and they continue to win on defense, and I'll go back to what I said, months ago, the NFL, we're in the middle of I don't call it a renaissance, but we're in the middle of a lot of change, especially at the quarterback position, with all these young quarterbacks who can run. The offense is down. I know the NFL wants to try to highlight offense and get the offensive teams going, but offenses are down and have been down since before the pandemic. Teams aren't scoring as much except for a few elite teams, You've had so many quarterback changes. You had so many offensive coordinator changes. There were 18 changes in offensive coordinators for teams last year. And now these teams, they go through the preseason. The starters don't play. All of a sudden they kick it off the season, and some of these teams are struggling offensively. Well, there's your reason. One, you got new coaches trying to put in their system, and you got guys that didn't play it hardly at all during the preseason, and all they did was practice it. So they're right now, I mean, Steelers are one of those teams that they got a young quarterback. They got an offensive coordinator that's probably a little bit in over his head, just like a lot of teams that are struggling right now. So, again, it's so early. We'll see. The Steelers can maybe right the ship. They go to the Raiders. They go to Vegas on Sunday night, and then they come back and play the Texans. So they got a couple of two easy games. They could be easily 3-1 as they start the month of October.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And the one thing about it, when you talk about an offensive coordinator that's maybe in a little bit over his head, it doesn't help him at all if he's got a head coach that he can't lean on that's on his side of the ball. So that makes it even tougher. One final NFL question. Hall of Fame candidates were released yesterday. Three-time All-Pros Julius Peppers, Antonio Gates headlined the list of 9 first-year eligible players among the 173 nominees. Some other first-year eligibles: Brandon Marshall, Jordy Nelson at receiver, running back Jamal Charles, offensive lineman T.J. Lang, Josh Sitton, and Max Unger, and defensive tackle. I struggle with this one. Holly Nagata, H-O-L-O. I'll let it go. Too many vowels and consonants. Me too. But I can't place it. And the one,
Holy
Nada. That's it. And the other one that a little bit, I guess, surprised, and I wonder how much of it has to do with where he's at in his life, is Steve McMichael. Steve McMichael has been nominated. Of course, he is really struggling with ALS and has been for some time. But he is also in there on the senior candidate list. Those include Lions and Steeler coach Buddy Parker. In the coaching category, Randy Granishaw, Steve McMichael, and Art Powell. And from what I've read here, they also will get in if they get support from at least 80% of the voters. So I didn't see anybody that really knocked my socks off. Renominated from last year: Devin Hester, Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Willie Anderson, Jared Allen, Dwight Freeney, Patrick Willis, and Darren Woodson. Some of those jump out at me as they should be in: a Reggie Wayne, a Darren Woodson, and then from the offensive side, Dwight Freeney. And we'll have to see where that goes. They'll reduce it to 25 in November, 15 in January, and then they'll start the discussions of the class. Any thoughts on those guys?
I'm sure they'll get a receiver or two, maybe throw in Steve Smith's name. Even, I know how you feel about that, but I may be good for the Panthers. I think Julius Peppers is a slam dunk. I think he will probably get in and probably throw in a defensive lineman. They like to mix it up a little bit. Dwight Freeney, I think they've watered it down a little bit. I'm in the Deion Sanders kind of thing. It's the Hall of really, really good instead of the Hall of Fame. But there are some wide receivers there. Maybe Torrey Holt gets close. A couple of those guys have been close before, and maybe they'll get Reggie Wayne. Maybe they'll get in this year. But I think Julius Peppers is a lead pipe cinch lock this year. I'd be stunned if he did not get in his first year. Those other guys, some of them have been around and waited a few years, and maybe it's their turn. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, to me, I think, not just Peppers, but I think Antonio Gates is another one of those. You can't tell the story of tight end if you don't talk about Antonio Gates. Yeah,
I agree. And from where he came from and playing college basketball and all of a sudden wind up and playing in the NFL and having a Hall of Fame type career, you're absolutely right. And again, maybe he'll get in, and that if he gets in, maybe that'll prevent one of the wide receivers from not getting in this year. Right. Because there's a glut of wide receivers that were pretty good. I don't know if they're Hall of Fame, but they were really, really good. We'll see what the voters think.
And you're right. I hear that talk on sports radio all the time. It's the Hall of Good, not really the Hall of Fame. Anything else, sir?
Big day today if you're an NCAA fan or NCAA fan in the courtroom, Lanny. I don't know if you've been keeping up. Capitol Hill's the place. they're going to have this legislative hearing analyzing NIL impact. And the other part of this is the fact that Title IX has come into the discussion too. And there's going to be a collision, a day of reckoning, because right now there have been some reports out there, especially from lawyers, who are saying that right now colleges, universities are not providing equal treatment and benefits for men and women because of NIL. They said about 90 to 95% of all the money that's collected in those collective, the monies that go out to NIL people, they are distributed to men. So anywhere from 90 to 95%, maybe even higher, most of those monies are being distributed to men, and women are not getting a fair shake. And they're going to talk before Congress today and this week. They'll be in the courtroom and in the halls of Capitol Hill discussing all of that. So that's maybe something to watch out over the next couple of days.
Is that just something that applies inside the NCAA? Because here's my take on that. And I am not against equal treatment, okay? I'm not against equal benefits. However, if it's a thing where it is something that's negotiated and it's done based on your ability, I don't like just handing it off to somebody else. You know, Title IX doesn't come into play with the NFL. Is that because it's professional? And what's going to happen, I think, if this gets pushed, then the colleges and universities are going to get out of the football business, the major football business, and they're going to become like a sponsor. You can play with our name, but we don't want anything to do with it, and then that relieves the Title IX responsibility.
Well, it might, as long as they're getting money from the government.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they're taking monies from the government, colleges and universities, they are required to follow the rules under Title IX. The reason NFL doesn't do it is because they don't take any government monies, right? Even though they are opening up, we're seeing more and more female assistant coaches and definitely officials, but that has nothing to do with Title IX, but it does so with the colleges as long as you're taking federal monies.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. Those people are getting those jobs because of their ability and not because of their gender.
Yeah, well, you got to at least I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but I think you have to provide an opportunity, not necessarily base it on talent, but at least you have to say, okay, if we're going to do it for the men, we must give an opportunity for the women as well. And I don't know if that is happening. At least that's what the folks or lawyers are saying. It's not happening with the money that's being doled out to the men student athletes. The male student athletes are getting most of the monies over the female student athletes. Now, why they're doing that, there are a myriad of reasons as to why.
Yeah, and that's when I get pissed, because it's not that they can't give money to the female athletes, but they're wanting to give money that in their eyes has some level of return. And no, I think the whole NIL thing's a crock, but I'm just saying it's going to be hard to force people that the money's coming out of their pocket, that, well, you're going to have to give some over here. You'll have people that say, okay, I won't do that. I'll go back under the table like I used to.
Well, and I think the fact that the NCAA has a president now that was in Congress, is a former congressman, and I think they probably hired this guy and with the express, purpose of trying to get Congress involved, where they can maybe come up with some guidelines, some federal guidelines as to how to do this NIL transfer portal, but especially the NIL down the road. So maybe this is only the first step of what's going to be a whole lot of changes. You think about it, Lanny, if you went into college coaching in 2019 or 2020, as soon as COVID hit, and you were a grad assistant someplace, imagine all the changes. Even if you were a head coach, all the changes that have happened in the last 3 or 4 years probably pales in comparison to all the changes that happened in the previous 10 or 20.
I would say even further back than 10 or 20. We have been on an express train to get things changed and do things in a different way.
That's probably hard. Would you agree it's harder to coach?
Oh, absolutely.
College level than ever before? Well,
it's one of those things where coaching becomes a second level of what your priorities are because of all the other BS that you got to tolerate.
Yeah, agreed.
I agree. All right, sir. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great day, and try to get you in here as soon as we can.
All right, Lanny, thanks as always, and you guys have a great week.
All right, that'll wrap it up for us today on The Bottom Line. Be back tomorrow morning. Ford Rembert will be with us. Have a great day.